Hi everyone, Rich Crescenti here with another in our series of videos, Making Music with Melodyne, and today is part 3 of our mini-series, Editing Guitars. Now, in part 1 of this series, we focused entirely on getting the note right, making sure that it was displayed and interpreted correctly. Part 2 was all about getting the timing right, and today is part 3, which is all about getting the sound and the tone right. This one will be a lot of fun, lots of cool tonal shaping possibilities today. Now, I want to remind everyone that I'm doing this with unmixed tracks. This is a clean, raw DI guitar sound, and I'm doing this because, like a lot of people who do reamping or use amp sims, you're looking for different tones, and Melodyne is a powerful and flexible tonal shaper before an amp when you're reamping or before amp simulators. All right, so let's dive in and take a look. Here is the raw, clean DI guitar track. Very basic, clean electric guitar. Now, to show you why I'm doing this and the flexibility of it, I've put on a distortion pedal sim and an amp sim today, so we get this now. And I kind of set it so that it's crunchy and breaks up a little bit at the loudest part of the note and then drops off into a cleaner sound as the note dips in amplitude right there. Okay, so let's dive in and take a look about how we can alter this right here. And the first one I want to talk about is our Amplitude tool itself. This is the tool we're looking at on the window right now. Now, I've talked about the macro slider for this before, where we can make quiet notes louder and make louder notes quieter. But I'm looking for something different right here. I'm looking for shaping of the notes within the chord. And there's a great way to do this. You know, if you click on an individual note, you could make it louder or softer. But if you click on this empty space right next to the note, for example, I'll choose the A flat, I can now take all of those A flat notes and make them louder or softer, which gives you a different way to control the voicing of the chord. Check this out. Very useful, potentially, depending upon how you want that chord voiced. Okay, now the rest of the sound shaping possibilities we're going to be dealing with are in this bottom window right here. And maybe you've seen this before, maybe you haven't. This is the sound editor. Right, I want to show you this right here. This is this button to turn it on or off. The sound editor is only in Melodyne Studio, but I love it and use it all the time. I think it's powerful enough and flexible enough to warrant upgrading to Studio, and let me show you why. Okay, so first, in this window, we see the choices of what we're looking at. We've got harmonics, we've got EQ, we've got our synthesis. I'm going to stick with harmonics for right now. That's where I'm going to do most of this today. But the first thing that I really want to show you are these two sliders right here. We've got our emphasis slider and our dynamic slider. I'm pointing these two out first because while these two are very powerful for shaping the sound, there is no visual representation of what they do right here. So don't look for visual changes to back up these audio changes. Okay, so first is our emphasis. And emphasis is really useful for making a track pop out a little bit more or blend in a little bit more. It looks at the spectra of the audio, the peculiarities of it, and either emphasizes them or de-emphasizes them. Check this out. If we listen to this, let me show you what we can do with it. I'm going to play this in context with the track to kind of show you. Now, as I drag this down, this guitar is going to blend a lot more. Give this a listen. As you notice, we started out, that guitar was blending really well, and as we increased the emphasis, it started to pop out and cut through a little bit more. Really very cool. Now the next one is the dynamics slider. This is different than the amplitude tool. The amplitude tool makes the entire note louder or softer. Dynamics deals with the dynamics of one individual note. So by increasing the dynamics, we'll make the note die away faster, and by decreasing the dynamics, we will make it continue on longer. Listen to the flexibility we have right here. I'm going to solo for this one. As a quick reminder, Option will give you fine control on these sliders. And as we decrease those dynamics, listen how this changes. Really, really cool. A lot of tonal flexibility going into an amp in terms of how that note dies away as it approaches the next note. I like this a lot. Okay. Now down here, we're going to look at all of these bars next, which are our harmonics bars, right? And you see, first up, we see the 1 right here. That's your fundamental. And then 2, 3, and 4 all the way up represent the harmonics on top of that. And the first thing I want to show you here is one of my favorite things about Melodyne in general, and that is this slider right here. You'll notice it has a little caret next to it. This is all of the information that is below the fundamental of this instrument. And I love, love, love this. I use this on every guitar, bass, synth, voice I mix because it allows you to go in and clean up a bunch of useless junk that is down there that is not musically related information. So this is just something I do almost all the time on all guitars just to get rid of noise. It's not always noticeable on one track, but track after track after track, it really just cleans out low end and makes your mix sing a little bit more. Check this out. Yeah, all that low end right there now is just musical low end. It's just the fundamental that's really giving it the thickness right there. Now, underneath all of your harmonic sliders right here, harmonic bars, we see these sliders. And these sliders are great for adjusting the overall shape of this sound right here. Really useful. Let's start off with brilliance. This allows you to make this track either more or less brilliant. Let's give it a listen. Just right there, that is a perfect way to make two similar guitars pop out from each other in a mix, right? If you're doing a mix that has lots of similar instruments, by making them sit in different frequency territories, either darker or brighter, you really clear out space for both of them in the mix. Okay, the next one over here is our contour. Contour is slightly similar to emphasis, but it's a little different. What contour does is it takes any individual bar and looks at the bars that are next to it. And by increasing the contour, we increase the distance from one to the next. And by decreasing that contour, we decrease it to smooth it out a little bit. Another great way to make your tracks either pop out a little more or blend in a little bit more. Let's give this a listen in context. I'm going to start with it really blended in. So much tonal flexibility right there. Really, really useful. The one after that I use a little bit less, but occasionally this is odd or even. This is good for sound design. You can bring that up or down to make different harmonics pop out. Again, lots of ways to make different guitars blend in together. And the last thing that we can do right here is we can also grab any individual or group of these harmonic bars and adjust them up or down, right? Let's listen to this guitar by itself for a second. And I'm going to experiment with the fundamental. For example, if someone is strumming near the center of the guitar, you're going to get the maximum amount of fundamental. As a matter of fact, strumming by the 12th fret is going to give you the maximum amount of fundamental. The closer you strum to the bridge, you're going to get less of that fundamental and more of these other harmonics. So you can actually change the way it sounds as if somebody were picking in a different part of the guitar. Give this a listen. Very cool. Very useful ways to shape the sound before you're going on to an amp or an amp sim. Hope you've enjoyed this today. Thanks.